Hello and welcome back to the Smoke Room. We will be continuing where we left off in Murdoch's route. So, if you last remember, there were what's his name? Jim and I believe it's Holly were having a confrontation with Murdoch being stuck in the middle along with Sam. And basically there was a lot of shouting, a lot of accusations, and things basically coming to the light. Jim pretty much knows that he's been played this entire time. He kind of knew already, but now it's been confirmed. Um, and basically, it's more or less revealed that Murdoch is stuck in the middle of all of this. Even if it is against his will, he's still going to be trying to help his family, but he's in a very bad spot in between these two people. And not only that, but Holly just revealed that she basically had photos developed that were of intimate moments between Jim and Murdoch, which would be very bad for the both of them. For Jim, because he's supposed to be the straight guy that's getting married, and for Murdoch, it's he's family, and all of a sudden his sister comes out and says, "Oh, I have these pictures of proof that you guys are gay," and yeah, who does that? Anyways, but all of a sudden somebody threw a rock at her, at Holly. So we're about to find out who it was. And I guess we're about to also be seeing the wedding. What a train wreck it's gonna be, probably. Anyways, so without further ado, let us continue Murdoch's route. I look in the direction of where I think the stone was thrown. There's the house behind us and the tall fence. I turn a corner to see if anybody is crouching down, but there's nobody. I do, however, notice that the bathroom window is cracked open. I think that I can see the shine on somebody's glasses before it backs up into the dark. The more I stare, it looks like two pairs of glasses. From another direction, the garden gate creaks. Ralph gives us all something of a furtive look. Fighting again, are we? At least have the decency to wait for me to get a few jabs in. He grins as if waiting for somebody to give him a saucy reply. But it's just quiet. Real quiet. All the other eyes are on him, as his smile wanes, his brow furrows, and he spins, closing the latch on the door. Holly starts stepping towards him as he looks behind his shoulder. You. Yeah, me. He lets his guard down again, but he shouldn't have. She swats the side of his head with the bag. You threw the rock at me, didn't you? He holds out his arms, confused. Admittedly, the idea is appealing right now, but I don't think my pay grade is that high. She slaps him. Holly! Ruff's head moves with the force of the smack, then he rolls his head back into position, just like one of those roly-poly toys. I guess I shouldn't be surprised. This probably isn't the first time that he's been hit. He rubs his cheek, like he's feeling the heat spread out of it. You look like you needed to get that out of your system. Oh, you bet I did. You have no right to accuse me of anything. He nodded his head. Oh, don't I? She sucked on her teeth. This just confuses me. I'm pretty sure that he didn't throw the rock, but he looks like he's enjoying Holly's reactions against him. Oh, don't start with me now. Don't I, Holly Burns? His volume rises, the highest that I've ever heard it, and his pitch the deepest. She looks like she's about to say something, but then closes her mouth and glares. He didn't throw the rock, you know. Murdoch and Holly say what at the same time. The bathroom window opens and a small voice carries from the window. You'll wake mother and father from their sleep if you don't stop yelling. It was the younger sister. Truth be told, I'm surprised that they ain't awake considering all the yelling. Living this close to the train makes them accustomed to earplugs. Dahlia! You woke Grandma, you know. I don't care. Did you throw that rock from the window? She hums in a springly manner. From up here, that rock doesn't look like an asteroid. The only rocks that I'm interested in are asteroids. But sometimes you discover something that you don't want to find when you turn them over. She hums again, this time in a more questioning tune. Isn't your fiancé the rock expert? Jim doesn't say anything. Perhaps you should consult him on such matters, since you're so close. With that, she closes the window pane of the bathroom. We all stand out in the garden for a while as the crickets chirp. I'm not looking at the rock. I know you're not looking at the fucking rock. The crickets just keep chirping. Jim keeps rubbing his face, then smacks his fist into his open palm. You're bluffing, aren't you? Have you known me to be a gambling woman, Jim? He kicks dirt out of frustration. Who'd you give the envelopes to, Holly? Her lips tighten, and she leans her head back to sift a dangling piece of fur out of the way of her eyes. Our sister, our grandmother, and one of my oldest confidants. Porter Moore. Jim's eyes go wide. But what if they snoop, Holly? I wouldn't give it to them if I thought that they were going to snoop. Well, she's right in some ways about her younger sister. But apparently she doesn't have the foresight to expect that she'd burn the damn thing. They don't have a good of a relationship as I earlier thought. But what if they snoop? The desperation in his repeated question is turning into rage. Simpering is turning into snarls. I don't think that I'll be able to hold myself back as well as these two if somebody made a threat like this to my face. I suppose that's the difference in the cloth that we're cut from. But it don't concern me. At this point, I don't really care about how these two settle their grievances. If Murdoch's exposed, being with him more is going to be a hell of a lot harder. And that does concern me. If I let Murdoch go through this wedding, that sends a message that Holly has the permission to do something like this again. And I can tell that it's not going to stop her from doing something worse in the future. She's become accustomed to a particular kind of lifestyle with her role as the eldest sibling in a wealthy family. She's going to take care of her brother and sister in the ways that she's learned, using the tactics that she's known will work. But I don't think that it's her fault alone just letting it get as bad as it did. Murdoch isn't innocent either. He's become comfortable with this particular type of lifestyle too. I know that he knows that. But looking at this any other way, I don't know what else he can do. He's either got to get all those photos or go through with this all, just making sure to keep his mouth shut. That would just make it Jim's problem, not ours. Right? Not our problem. Why don't y'all just go through the motions without officiating the marriage? Holly's muzzle snaps to my direction like she's surprised that I'm still here. But even more surprising to me is that she responds. Because I want a husband, not a performance. Her voice is a low hiss. But you're so fond of those, I'm finding. My disappointment is very real, make no mistake. He's laughing now, almost yelping. That's exactly what I'll do then. I'll make no mistake and then leave town. And I'll make sure that they hunt you down. You have a good job, don't you, Jim? He eyes me suspiciously. The money's good, yes. Why not lose some of it instead of all of it then? Ain't nobody gonna get hired if they're plastered for sodomy on the front page of the Sunday paper. He points. Because it still means that she'll have none of it? He points with his index claw at Holly. Not a cent. But what of her brother? His ears twitch a bit when I say it. Ah, there it is. He's just as false. He didn't enjoy any of that. Now, Mr. Sterling. I touch his shoulder and he flinches. My snout reaches his ear, and I'm whispering now. We both know that ain't entirely true. He always finishes, don't he? He shivered a bit. I could smell that shy trace of excitement in the air from him. What are you both talking about over there? Murdoch is also staring, but it was a placid kind of look. Whether it's true or not didn't matter. Jim had no compassion to spare for his bride tonight. But he was wounded, and I could tell that he wanted somebody to tend to those wounds. After my suggestion, I could hear the shift of his suit fabric slacking as his posture softens. Only a modest share of my salary then. Holly blinked. She looked at me, almost as if impressed, but the look didn't last long. Enough for permanent housing. It'll be done then. Can't guarantee I'll be home very often. She grimaces. Well, you know the idiom. Absence makes the heart grow fonder. Though perhaps you'll come around in time. He scoffs. I'd rather lose track of it, given enough to drink. Lose as much time as you like, so long as you're at the ceremony at least by 9 a.m. It'll be done then. So, where are you going now? To the guest house my friends are staying at. I don't want them to come tomorrow. She squints. And don't you think that they'll ask why? I simply don't wish to give them the memories. But don't worry. I was already set up with them before your scheme. They understand discretion. They had better. He and Holly turn away from one another in opposite directions and begin to walk. He turns back to look at Murdoch one more time. Holly doesn't look back at all. Jim disappears out of the rose gate and Holly walks up the stoop, facing the back door of her home. She grabs the handle and squeezes. But she's interrupted by a hemming sound. Why weren't you at the beach, Holly? Ralph's voice is soft but dangerous. Murdoch is shaking his head, quickly, but the rat's ignoring him. It's an odd thing for him to say. It has nothing to do with what we just talked about. And none of us were at the lake today. She spins around to stare. The corners of her mouth curl into a sneer. Because I was a child. And my friends were giving me the best day of my life. That is a very pretty non-answer. And yet, it's all you're getting. You nasty, vindictive little man. She looks him up and down, arms crossed, head nodding. You're emptier than the wine flutes in our cupboard. She turns around once again, pulls the door open, and slips inside. Ralph spits on the dirt. She doesn't feel a bit of shame. It's like she doesn't know how. The crickets start chirping again, now that all the shouting has stopped. What's all this about the beach? Ralph grunts. He lowers his voice and whispers in my ear. That's where she said that she was the day that we lost his brother. Murdoch was sitting on a bench, staring at the trellis. If she was at the beach, like she said, she would have saw the whole incident with the boat from the shorefront. All that boat did was just putter around in the middle of the lake. She said that she didn't see it. You don't simply just miss the damn riverboat. It is a pretty damn big boat. You think that she's hiding something then? The rat looks away, like he's thinking. Then he decides to speak again. I bet it's something that would be nothing to people like us. But everything to somebody like her. Either way, she admitted that she lied, but refuses to be specific. To be coy about this, given the circumstances of the day. It's strange. Deeply strange. I just want to know that she really felt something. Ralph, Sam. We turned to Murdoch's voice. It was barely louder than a whisper. Did you see where Holly tossed the rock that she got hit with? We can see it sitting on one of the rose bushes. It's not a very big rock. It's fairly light and it fits in the center of my palm pretty easily. It looks like just an ordinary piece of granite with a spiral scratched into it. Murdoch makes a few clicking sounds with his tongue while he looks at it. We should head back to the apartment. We need to be prepared for tomorrow. Walking our way downtown, I can't help but think about Ralph and Holly. I had a hunch that they didn't like one another before, But that was something else. Neither of them seemed like the kind of people that I'd want to cross. I wonder for a moment if I should go back to the hip to clean my bedroom, but I feel like Murdoch needs company tonight. He's not telling me to go home when we get to his door, nor is he shooing me into the couch when I enter his bedroom. Maybe this is just for the convenience of the wedding. With all that's happened in other people's lives, we haven't exactly had time for just us. I still haven't quite processed that I'm dating this man now, and I'm the only one who knows about it. You want to talk about tonight? Murdoch stretches out, lying supine, letting his huge tail curl up from between his legs. Which part? He smiles. There's so much. Let's start with you. How do you feel? He snorts. I know what to say to make you cross with me. And what's that? That I shouldn't have pushed him away. I bang my head against the pillow on the bed and bring my arms up across my back. And you'd be right. A shove like that always comes out in some way or another. You're lucky it was just his cock in your mouth and not him standing on the ledge of the balcony. Murdoch wrinkles his nose. Oh, come on, I wouldn't do that. And why's that? He adjusts himself. I don't actually hate Jim. That's a surprise. Are you being truthful with me? Yes. He nips me on the neck with a soft bite and then pulls away. He says ignorant things from time to time, but he doesn't act so bad unless he's around his friends. They didn't seem to like one another's company much, but I thought that was just a side effect of having proper status and money. Murdoch laughs. I don't think it's dislike so much as fear. If you didn't notice, they all scrutinize themselves just as much as one another. I don't think that I had noticed. How do you figure? The politician sips a glass of his water before saying anything. His words are always carefully curated. The doctor can't stand to sit in silence. Usually people do that when they don't like to sit with their thoughts for too long. He looks up at the ceiling and then looks at me. The power of the country's aristocracy is in decline, you know. We're starting to see a robust middle class form, the backbone of this country. That means that more and more of the middle class can also start to have a say in things. What things? Murdoch shrugs. Government, medicine, art, religion. All things, really. That means that the rich don't just want to be seen with the rich anymore. They want to surround themselves with celebrities and experts. Influential craftspeople. Sounds like it's making them try to be better people. The fox lets out a one-note laugh. In some ways, it's making them worse. I turn my head to him. How do you figure? Because they still treat everyone from a lower class like servants. Now, they want to have a conversation with you instead of ignoring your existence. Just so that they can appear important to competitors by showing that they have robust social connections. Only saving grace is that the middle class doesn't have to rely on the rich for everything and anything. But that doesn't change the fact that Jim's friends think Holly, and by extension me, were too poor to be associated with. Which is why they laughed at him when I shoved him. Oh. He's saying that they all think he's poor. But you're one of the richest families in Echo. Echo doesn't have the kind of money that these people are used to, Sam. Even the well-off haven't had money for as long as these people have had money. They don't even consider the Briggs or the Hendricks to be particularly wealthy. We're all bumpkins to them. The fuck's a bumpkin? It's what you are. Well, I don't like to be insulted. It's not an insult when I say it. Bullshit. Okay, it's not entirely an insult. At least he's laughing again. It just means that since we weren't born into wealth, those people will never see us as one of them. Which means that they think that they're entitled to more, and we're entitled to less. But then you have odd cases like my sister and Jim's relationship, where he thinks that new money is good enough. And it can be contentious. So this might be shocking to hear. But I don't like or trust your older sister. He stopped smiling. Hard to blame anybody after seeing what she was like today. What I'm saying is that we should probably try and get back those photos. He sighs. Easier said than done, when there's at least 4 copies out there. 3 copies. You have to include the originals that she's duplicating in that. I mean, I did. Dahlia burned hers without even opening it. Murdoch's ears lift. That makes me feel a little better. I could probably convince my grandmother to give me those photos. We have a good relationship. Knowing his family, that could mean anything. Maybe I should speak with her? She should be at my house in the early morning. She's never late to an important social engagements, but she doesn't like traveling into town. So how about the last one? Porter Moore? That rings any bells? I think it does. I've been to some of the Historical Society meetings. I think he was one of the men interested in the occult, but I can't be sure that I'm remembering correctly. He might be a bitch to track down. Maybe it'll be worth your time since you're curious about the nature of this town too. It would be if most of the mystics in town didn't come across as charlatans. They're more interested in looking at the bottoms of teacups and the dust in the photographs rather than experiments with replicatable results. What's tricky about spiritual experiences, I've found, is that by their very nature, they're rarely about replication. So what you're saying is that you haven't had any success. Not true. Oh? Like I mentioned before, Dahlia and I think that there's something in the light. Since photographs essentially record and replicate the conditions of the light, I've made as many duplications of the same picture before. Not 1 time, not 100 times, but thousands. Distortions are ordinarily due to human mistakes, of course, but I found that they can't be explained. Such as? He pauses as if thinking how to say what he's going to say next. Like an image of a person's face that forgot how to be a face. Like something taken apart and studied, but then put back together wrong, with the wrong sizes and proportions. And it's worked more than once? It's always worked with enough replications of the same photo. That's the only thing that I've been able to show anybody. I expect any experiments or demonstrations with light will result in something off given enough trials. Have you told anybody about this? Ralph and my sisters. How did they react? Ralph and Dahlia didn't seem surprised. They were calm. Holly looked unwell. She had quite a few ideas about what was wrong with this place, but she wouldn't share them. Murdoch sighs. If Holly gets her ticket out of Echo, then that will be a good thing for everybody. Except Jim. Probably not. If they're going ahead with the wedding, then there might not be anything to worry about. But I don't think that they're going to make up after what happened tonight. I suppose anything is possible. Why do you care about that so much? He taps his paw pads on his chest. Before I met you, I thought that's how things were going to be. Holly and Jim taking over the school and the store as my parents grow past the age that they're able to. I assumed that they'd be together and that I'd always be around with them for whatever that they needed. But now that can't be more than my life. Everything just seems to be changing so fast. Jim seems to like you still. I know. Even better than your sister, I'd wager. I think Jim likes avoiding mutually assured destruction better than either of us, in fairness. Yeah, that's fair. I'm just saying. If you need something from Jim, you can probably get it. I'll think about that after things settle a bit. We still have a wedding to assist. Again, I was just saying. I like you way better than Jim. He bends down to kiss me on the whiskers. It makes me hard. He looks at the tent sheet that I'm making with his bed sheets. I'd offer to help you with that, but I'm exhausted. You wouldn't mind if I use my hands to get rid of it? Far from the first time that's happened in this bed. Just make sure that you clean up after. When I'm stressed out, it doesn't take too long to finish. Murdoch can smell when I do. There's rags under the end table. I shimmy to the side of the bed and pluck one from the end table and start to wipe myself off. Thanks. Don't mention it. Let's go to bed and get tomorrow over with as soon as possible, so I'll have the energy to swallow the next time that you need to shoot. I feel myself get hard again. You're kidding me. I don't need to go again. It'll get soft if we just ignore it. But you could, couldn't you? I'm not gonna. But yeah, I could. Murdoch whistles. I mean, it would be bad if I couldn't, right? I'm gonna go to sleep now. Right. I look down. Still hard. Murdoch's eyes are closed, but I can see the corner of his muzzle curling into a grin. It would be hard for me to have any sort of smile after going through the day that he's been through. But I know now that he's used to the habit of smiling. I just hope that it helps him sleep well tonight. I expected to have nightmares last night, but I didn't. I haven't heard any more voices lately either, but that doesn't make me feel any better. Part of me wished that I could hear them again, just to remind myself how wrong everything feels about this morning. Murdoch is cleaning and dressing himself. Ralph put on a kettle on the stove, and we could hear it whistling. We're all going through the motions in silence, as if we were on an ordinary day. Murdoch heads to the door, but Ralph stops him before he can squeeze the handle. Going so soon? I want to get at the house early to make sure that there aren't any unnecessary setbacks. We ain't even have breakfast. Please, don't worry on my behalf. You should both eat. I'll find something small at the house if I grow peckish. He leaves before Ralph can interrupt him. Ralph puts his glass down and looks at me. What? Bit of a bad notion to suggest that he keeps Jim wrapped around his finger, ain't it? I sip the glass of water that I'd been given. Slowly. Might as well cut in with your good ideas then, since you can hear everything on the other side of the wall. What else can he do? He should have called the bluff. It ain't no bluff. I've seen the evidence. Ralph rubs his temples. Because she wants to convince you that she has the power to make that call. She doesn't. The last thing Holly Burns wants to do is look as though she failed her mother. If those pictures get out, she loses what she's worked for years. And the blame will come down on her too. She knows that. Still too much of a risk for anybody to tell her no. Which is the kind of explanation somebody like her will count on. I don't know what's worse. How pitifully shallow this little scheme is, or the fact that she knew everybody would perform for it. Why try when something works? Because it wouldn't if he could escape them. We both know by now that he needs to stop depending on his family, or else they will use up everything that he is and leave nothing left. And here you are telling him to lean into that? Until he can find those photos? I shrug. Yeah. If there ain't no other way to stop him using them, might as well learn to use them back, right? Wrong. Holly's sloppy, but don't you think that the same could be said of their mother? He needs to establish his boundaries, not stretch his own further. He might be uncomfortable at first, but that's part of why they push him so hard. They know that he'll allow it. Because he's comfortable with that position. If you think he's doing something wrong, then why are you still sticking around? Because I still got a profitable setup here, and I still need to save up. That means playing a song and dance on occasion for these delusional people. They don't bother me much when I tell them no. But Murdoch is in a position where he can't without a blow-up. I say that we're well overdue for a blow-up, and I can't even guarantee that I'm the one who's going to do it first. I stand up to intimidate him, but he doesn't flinch. I'll give you a day, but I won't give you forever. Tick-tock, lover boy. I scarf down the frigid egg in 3 bites, leave the plate on the counter, and turn back on him, headed towards the door. When I'm outside, it takes most of my restraint not to slam it closed. The fucking gall. Everybody I've met as of late seems to think that they're an unstoppable force, but it's like they're blind and can't see that they keep bouncing into one another. Murdoch has been setting more boundaries. He's been trying. But where's he gonna go if everything goes sideways? Doubt that he'd want to spend the rest of his life hiding in my goddamn bedroom. I'm not used to being up so early that it's still dark. I knock on the door and wait. I expect one of Murdoch's parents or the siblings to greet me, but I'm staring at the face of a stranger. She's a fox, but her fur is gray and she's wrapped mostly in scarves. She teeters back and forth as she moves and squints through her glasses when she looks at my face. Socks told me that there might be somebody else coming. Socks? I think that's a nickname Ralph called Murdoch once, but it's strange hearing a stranger say it. You're one of his friends, yes? Yeah. She turns and starts hobbling away, deeper inside the house. Come on, into the living room. There's something about this woman that gives me hard-to-place feelings. Not bad ones, but not good ones. It's the same kind of feeling that you get when you're in a church. You can't help but feel like you're walking in on something that's been here before you were born and will be here long after. That's not to say that I think this old woman will outlive me, but she has a big presence that makes me feel like mine is shrinking in the shadow of footsteps. I noticed you mentioned that this is your living room. Doesn't this place belong to Gretchen and Alfred? She shakes her head quietly. Not without my money. But you don't live out here, do you? No. I only visit for critical family matters. Living here is an act of hubris. A perfect challenge for my daughter. She turns to me and squints. Doesn't she know the soil's bad? She says that like it's obvious. Do you mean the roses? She squints again. Then she shakes her head. No, not the roses. Though roses of all things. In the desert. She pokes at the logs in the fireplace to kick up the embers. Now there's an eternal conquest. Then she puts another piece of firewood down. But enough about plants. I meant a common kind of sense that isn't so common anymore. Everybody should know that if you want to live in a place with good soil, you need goodwill and good people. Usually, to do that, you and your family had to treat the place right for a long time, but sometimes folks get lucky with their neighbors and there's plenty of harmony to go around already. If a place is convivial due to the goodwill and the care of the people, you can plant roots that spread deep. The attitude of the people who live somewhere reflected in the place. She looks around her and shakes her head. You can probably see what I mean. You're a tourist, like me. How do you figure? She looks me up and down again. You don't have the feel of a local. What gives you that idea? Well, your clothes are clean, your hands look soft, and your shirt's buttoned awfully low. You work in entertainment? Yeah. She nods firmly and goes back to poking the coals. I notice that she's heating something over the flames, but it doesn't smell like food. I used to think that this place wasn't so good when I first came here, but it was always less bad than home. Everybody needs a house, but a house is not a home. Homes come after the house. People get that backwards. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. No. She seems to pick up on my tone regardless. I'm saying that people can make a house into a home. The same way a town is people. The same way a city is people. These things all come from people. And the kinds of people get reflected in the homes, the town, the cities. Look at this town. I know my daughter insists it's a city, but it's still a town in my eyes. I can tell that there are attempts to make things right. There's some good people doing good here. But it's not the kind of good that bounces back from catastrophe. You lose your entertainment halls and you lose your mines. You lose your people. But That's all backwards. There needs to be room for that kind of resilience. A community will give life to a home when it breaks down. But a community ready to leave the moment that happens makes ruins of their buildings, no matter how new the paint is. I expect her to keep on going in a way that older folks tend to, but she stops, taking a hold of her chair, and coughs. It starts as a bit of a wheeze, but then it turns into an all-out hacking cough that racks her body. When she's finished, she wipes her tears from her eyes. Sorry about that. Bad air. This old woman better not die when I'm all by myself with her, or I'm gonna lose my mind. Is there really nobody else around the house to help you? I've been taking care of myself for over 70 years, so I don't think that I'd let them. And I have work to do before the church bell rings for my granddaughter. She gestures at the pot on the hearth. What is that? The purest silver for a coin casting. I wouldn't give Mr. Sterling my blessings if he wouldn't provide the silver himself. Don't rely on a man who won't pay. She gets it. I think that she might be my favorite family member. I see you smiling. You agree with me? It's a pretty certain reassurance. Much better than blackmail. I lose my train of thought. Were you around last night? Lad, you could wake the dead with that argument. But of course, my daughter and her husband still managed to sleep through it. I appreciate you standing by Socks, though. He has fewer helpers than heaven these days by the looks of it all. She goes to the couch and retrieves a little orange envelope from a velvet green bag. Then she hands it to me. Is this... Saw me grandson's Willie enough when he was barely a few months old. I don't need to see it again when he's a grown man. I exhale. Funny that you're the second person your granddaughter's given photos to who just got rid of them. She nods forcefully and pokes at the envelope. That one's always had a bad habit of taking the rest of the family for granted. She can put the men in line, but she has yet to realize how poorly she contends with the other woman. So, why are you telling me this? That makes her bark out laughing. Because, laddie, please don't take offense when I say this, but outsiders aren't considered a threat. The Rowans have always survived, so long as they support their own. But what I see from this side of the family has been, let's say, mixed for now. I've done most of what I can do with this time on this planet so that the rest is up to the coming generations. I hear the wood creak upstairs. I can't tell if it's the natural strain of the house or if there's somebody up there. Are you sure that there's nobody else in the house? She looks up. Nobody who should be, at least. Do you think that she has the negatives to these in her bedroom? Most likely. It's been hers alone, long after the wee kids moved out. You're thinking of looking for them, aren't you? Not without your permission. Like you said before, you own the house. You learn quickly. She's quick in turn to give me instructions to the bedroom. I wouldn't stay longer than 10 minutes unless you mean to be caught. Right. I remember that this used to be a children's bedroom when I see that it doesn't have lock. An uneasy sense of guilt puts my hair on edge when I think about being in somebody else's bedroom without permission. And it doesn't help that Holly Burns' bedroom looks exactly how I thought that it would look. Everything looks like it has a perfect place. From the bags, the dresses hanging from the stands, the glass cases draped in jewelry, the vanity overflowing with perfume, to the smartly cut curtains that just let the right amount of light into the room. This bedroom is beyond upkept. It's curated, which means that it's my least favorite kind of room to snoop around in. If anything is moved without care, she'll notice. This room is, without a doubt, built for comfort, which means that she'd probably want to keep something like the photograph negatives out of mind and out of sight. When I think about places to hide things, I first think about the floorboards in my room at the hip. But if somebody doesn't have something like that, my mind drifts towards hiding things under the bed or stuffing them deep inside the closet. So first I crouch down and look under her bed. There is a box under there all right, and it doesn't even look dusty. I pull it with one hand and get surprised by the weight of it. Once I pull all the way out, I can see that it's a simple crate with shreds of sawdust in it. But inside are smooth white crystals that are so round that they look like eggs. They're pretty. And pretty weird. But not what I'm looking for. I push the crate back under the bed. Time for the closet. It's not a very big closet, which I suppose makes sense. It was built for children. But as I open it, I'm shocked by how much it's stuffed in there. She has quite the suit and dress collection and many pairs of shoes. The top is so stacked with boxes that if I remove one thing, it has the danger of all tumbling down. So I have to go through each box one by one and replace it. I do find a box of photos, but they seem perfectly innocent. There is another box. Full of rocks again? Is this what she and Jim had in common? I don't know if I should touch them. Time for a third box. Shit. I see what hit me. It's just a stiff old carpet that got me right between the neck and the shoulder. I step back, feeling the pain spread dully through my body as it falls to the ground, unrolling partially. It looks like an old blanket that you'd find outside. Maybe on somebody's porch that's been worn down by the elements. Maybe as cushioning over the hay in the back of the wagon. It's not something that I'd expect to find in a bedroom so much as an attic or storage room. But I stare at it a little longer. What I mistake for a large rust-colored pattern that covers most half of the entire rug is in fact a stain. I'm pretty certain that it's the color of dried blood. My mind starts racing. Why would she have this? What does this mean? Is this from a person or from an animal? I think about the girl in the graveyard. Blythe Washington, the one who took my money. She said that the teachers weren't listening when they talked about missing friends. Holly Burns does not strike me as a murderer. A blackmailer, yes. Underhanded, absolutely. But a killer? That doesn't add up. Nonetheless, she'd have to have known that this was here, wouldn't she? So, what does that mean? Good morning, Mother Rowan. Shit. You already said that before you left. Shit. I have to roll this carpet up again and quickly. Well, it's still a good morning. All things willing. Once it's rolled back up, I try to push it back up above the boxes, but it gets stuck on the frame. The roll on one side is too thick. What are you back for? Just my pocket watch. I push the carpet in harder until I hear it give scraping against the side of the door. I push it up, then in. It fits inside, just as I hear Alfred walking up the steps. Either I've got to jump out of the window, or I have to wait for him to enter the room and sneak by. Once I hear the steps stop creaking and another door open, I decide to open Holly's door to the hall. There's nobody there. I walk as quickly and as quietly as I can until I reach the stairs. Then descend. The moment that I hear my tail turn the hall, the sound of footsteps from the stairs follow. Granny Rowan hands me the fire poker as Alfred enters the room. What's the store help doing here? He stopped by earlier to help, and I told him that I could use an assistant. You didn't say that he was here. Didn't ask, did ya? Well, it's a fine time for him to show up. I need help carrying to the church. Taking my help, are you? Not like I need any, but buy an old woman a slice of coffee cake before you take her manservant, won't you? Alfred looks unamused by the jab. He directs me to the stairs and turns on a light bulb. The Burns basement is filled with boxes and boxes of stuff. Iron casings for pans that look like they're missing their lids. Various planks of wood. Parts of what look like a sewing machine or a loom that are out of commission. Painted plates, some of which were cracked. It's a very tight and very dingy. I'm not exactly new to manual labor, so the faster that we get out of here, the better. Tell me what a haul and I'll take it, sir. The man just is sifting through boxes. Sir? No need to be hasty, son. But hasty is exactly what I want to be. This place is making my nose wrinkle. Looks like Granny likes you. That's good. She doesn't usually take to plain old working folk. Must have seen something special in ya. I don't know how to follow that up. I'm about to ask him what we're looking for when he speaks up again. Murdoch does too, doesn't he? He shuffles through the boxes. You're both real close, ain't ya? He's pretty good for a boss, sir. Alfred stops, stands, and turns. He chuckles a bit. Good for a boss? His smirk dies. Boy, I'm your boss. Damn right you are. Sir. His serious face cracks up and he starts to laugh. You think Murdoch's a good boss? He is a shit boss. His laughter dies down a little as he turns around, crouching, looking through the cupboards. But he is a good boy. Real good boy. His voice settles into a whisper. It's flatter than before. Not bad taste in people. No, not him. He takes off his eyeglasses and starts to clean them. Do you have any regrets, Mr. Ayers? I regret that I am not a mind reader so that I could find out what he needs to leave. Suppose so. You ever lost a son? Can't say that I've ever gotten nobody pregnant. That would be impossible for more reasons than one. Good on you for that, Mr. Ayers. God rewards the chaste. Well, that's too fucking bad. Not like I think God rewards anybody anyhow. Today it feels like I'm losing a daughter. You become a better person, I think, when you learn to lose the things that you love. Let's stop thinking about the things that you love and focus on the things in the basement. You let go. You become a better man. If more people rose to the challenge, then what a world it would be. Oh, what a world it would be. Cleaner for sure. Right. Are towels what we're looking for? No. It's a silverware case. I've been saving it for years. It'll be somewhere along the floor, but everybody just messes with my things down here. They shouldn't be. If you get down on your knees, there might be something under one of the tables. I would do it, but my legs are bad. Just stand on the opposite end of the room to give me space, and I'll go for it. Of course. I lower myself to the basement floor, and it's filthy. The bricks are covered completely with dust, and there's dark splotches underneath. I lift the sheet and look for something. There's an old box with hinges that looks promising. The handle is cold to the touch. It scrapes along the bricks as I pull it out from under the table. This ringing the bell? I look at the old fox who's just standing in a corner, staring at me. He doesn't respond, but I think that he expects me to open it. There's just clothes in it. Kids' clothes. If they didn't belong to Murdoch, they probably belonged to his brother. Morbid that they'd still be down here. This ain't it. Mr. Burns still isn't saying much. I push it back under the table and crouch down again. This time there's a thin, heavy box that clatters when I move it. Oh, well, this could be it. I hear him walk past me and shudder. Mr. Burns, please don't do that. He's in a different corner of the room now, pulling sheets from a box. I think he's examining them. The box that I have turns out to be metal Christmas ornaments built from wire and string. Disappointed, I put them under the table again. Let's give this another try. As much as I'd like my mind to be elsewhere. Well, I'm down on the dirty floor once again, as my lover's dad plays with sheets. I still can't stop thinking about the carpet in Holly's room. She has to know that it's there, right? She is away from her room at the school long enough to not know if it were put there. But if it wasn't her, then who? As I ask myself this, I come across another suitcase that was thinner than the last one. This one has one nice snap to it when I undo the buckles. The dim shine of the cellar lights is enough for me to see the golden sparkle coming from the box. I can see forks and spoons. This is definitely it. But I flinch as I bump into something. The box I took out earlier overturns and opens, spilling some of the clothes on the ground. I expect Mr. Burns to start yelling at me, but he's in the corner still, moving on from the sheets and messing with more boxes. One of the sheets is over his head. I can hear something, but it's muffled. I begin to stand up, waiting for him to take off the sheet. But it doesn't seem like it's going to happen. I can see the outline of his muzzle shifting below as he breathes, or talks, or whatever he's doing under there, like the marks left in the stand after the wind changes it. It seems as though he's forgotten where he is for the moment. I doubt that we have much time to spare, so that I shake him a bit. It ain't Halloween, Mr. Burns. Still nothing. Mr. Burns, I found the silverware. You're born to fish, you know that. Well, I'm terrible at fishing. But I do like it. It doesn't matter if you disturb the waters when you weren't supposed to. That happens to the best of us. What? All you need to do now is close your eyes and cast it out. The breeze is nice today. After this, we'll all sleep easy. It dawns on me that he's not talking to me by now. I see that he's touching an old fishing pole. So I take the sheet off of his face. What I expect to see is a dazed expression of a doddering old fool. But what I see is a terrible face. His brow is so tightly furrowed that I can see the black behind his face, and the dark of his gums are curled so tightly that I can see every single one of his teeth. He has a look of a man who awoke from his dream and hates me for it, ready to snap at my throat. But this too seems like a passing dream for him. He relaxes and looks at the case in my hand, and sighs a breath of relief. Took us long enough. He chuckles and snatches the case from my paw as if nothing over the course of the last few seconds ever happened. He takes a moment to open the case and looks through it, eyes bright like a painting of Santa Claus. Yep, this will do us fine, Mr. Ayers. You carry this to the wedding venue. Where is the wedding venue? They still haven't told me. You one of the Mormons or something? Baptist. At least I used to be. Better, but still shouldn't have asked. The venue is at the church, next door to the temple. We'll be holding most of the ceremony on the veranda. He grunts as he walks up the stairs. It's still a little off-putting, but I'm just grateful to be out of the cellar. It already feels easier to breathe once we get into the hallway. When we pass through the living room, Murdoch's grandmother is gone. Is she gonna be okay? Don't ask me. She usually is. The walk downtown is made a little trickier with the heavy silverware set that I'm holding. For a summer morning, it's still very hot. Gonna have to hose myself down before we get dressed if I want to be fresh. As we approach the venue, I can't help but feel impressed. It's the most packed that I've ever seen a church in Echo. Well, at least a church site. The church next door looks as nearly empty as always. Turns out that the veranda is just a fancy word for a porch. I see Murdoch's sister, his mother, and his grandmother fussing about, along with some other laborers and a handful of elderly women that I've never seen before. Everybody looks stressed out, still putting off the last touches on everything. Oh good, we have the utensils finally. Murdoch's mother walks towards me in maybe the most expensive outfit that I've ever seen. And here I thought that we were going to be telling the guests that we'd be using pine cones. I shift a bit. Oh, where do you want me to put it down? She shakes her head, looking over me doubtfully. Just give it to the caterers. There is no party without our heavy labor, but to make the party it calls for a much more delicate touch. Sure. Where are they? Morning, Samuel. Oh. Well, hi there. Murdoch's mother makes a grand gesture with her hands to Cynthia, then walks away, heels clicking quickly as she moves. So, what are you doing here? Who else is going to cater fine dining in Echo? The silver dollar? She lets out a loud laugh. Why pay for the silver experience when you can afford the gold? Is that the line that you give people in the bar? It could be. Besides, Echo's whole suffrage party was invited to attend. What? That party who hates men? Cynthia's composure falls and she almost does a full body recoil. Sam! Don't let anybody here let you say something so stupid or they'll throw your ass flat out. Well, I don't really know what they're about. I try not to get involved in government. They are the right to vote party, Sam. Oh. She crosses her arms. Yeah. Well, I support that. Uh-huh. I feel my cheeks get redder. I bet it's more complicated than that, but I don't want to look any more stupid than I already do. I'm gonna go help get things ready. I've got stuff to do. Bye. I can feel her eyes on my back as she stares me down. The good thing about churches is that you can always depend upon them to be empty. Or, well, at least mostly empty. There is a pew near the front. Holly and Jim are sitting there in silence, dressed in their wedding clothes. Murdoch sits in the middle, head bowed, posture bent over like one in prayer, but to who or for what, I wouldn't know. Don't y'all know that it's bad luck for a bride and a groom to see one another on their wedding day? They don't look like they're talking, but none of them are looking at the altar either, like they're too uncomfortable to look at it. We're not looking at one another. A church is a place for thinking, not speaking. She doesn't elaborate. Murdoch stands up and looks to his sister. I look forward to lighter thoughts once this day is through. He stands, looks at me, and smiles. Then he folds out an elbow for me. What are you doing? Just getting in some practice. He hooks his elbow with mine and walks me up the aisle on the opposite side of the altar towards the dark-stained glass doors of the entrance. We're supposed to go the opposite way. He shuts me up with a kiss. I feel tongue and try not to panic. But Jim and Holly can't see us from here, and there's nobody near the entrance. He pushes away with a small smack. What was that for? Just a reminder that I needed that I am not single at a wedding today. You're so needy. He nods. That's right. Speaking of needy, I'm going to need you to put on the formal wear that you forgot at the apartment. Oh, right. I did forget to bring it. Thanks. Thank Ralph. Thanks, Rap. You really ought to freshen up before you put on the formal wear, though. That was a plan. Here, there is a bathroom that we can fix you up in. I feel a small yelp escape me as he practically drags me into the bathroom. We're in the stinking desert. I don't think anybody is going to complain too much about the inevitability of body odor. Sounds like an excuse to me. Foxes smell worse than mountain lions, you realize. That just means that we have to try harder. He brushes his cheeks against my muzzle and slips his tail between my legs. The crisp smell of citrus blends with the slightly sweet and skunky smell of fox, along with the creamy, clean shaving cream. He scrubs me down with a wet bar of soap and splashes me with the water, letting the suit hang neatly on the door. This is stupid and ridiculous. Well fit for a house of God. Frankly, I think he'd be less offended if we committed acts of obscenity. I'd be more scared of what my mother would do if she caught us than God. Don't even joke about that. Who says I'm joking? After enough scrubbing, splashes, and sniff tests, he finally deemed me appropriate to put on the suit. Then he dabbed some of the oil from a bottle beneath my wrists and my ears that made me smell like a campfire. Let's not use too much. Remember, this is a wedding, not a funeral pyre. He He smiles as he fixes my tie and buttons my cufflinks. Now, I still have some things to take care of, so please lend a hand where it's needed, and let's keep a professional distance throughout the ceremony. He rests his hands on my shoulders, his smile falters a bit, and then he brings me in for a much tighter hug, with his face buried in my chest. Let's make the best of this day. Unpleasantries aside. He opens the door and slides out quickly, footsteps fading as he walks away. I look in the mirror and make sure that I am as presentable as he wants me to. Then I step out the door. I look down the pew and see that Jim and Holly aren't in the front. Jim isn't in the chapel at all. Holly is sitting at the pew closest to the bathroom, near both of the only exits in the chapel. I try to walk past with her back to me, but she speaks. "You're quite close to my brother, aren't you?" "As close as any shopkeep can be to his employer, ma'am." "Quite." She turns her head around to look at me. "Yet it's clear that you aren't merely a shopkeep, nor a servant. How much is he paying you?" "I don't disclose my paycheck, ma'am." She purses her lips and opens her pocketbook. She takes out a thin slip of paper. "So this... It's a blank check. Write the amount that you'd like me to pay you to quit today. I do not have the time or the energy to be civil today, so I just like to be done with this." "Ma'am, at this point I don't think that you could afford to send me home." "Just write the number." She hands me a pen and I take it. I write $500 in the empty space. She takes a look at the check. "No, that's quite doable." It is?" I should have made the number higher to get the point across. I take the pen back and write 2 zeros after. Then I give her the pen back. "Okay, so you're not actually interested in money. Suspicious for an ordinary shopkeep, considering that's the point of why you work. So, what exactly are you working for?" I don't have a real great retort for that. "Loyalty." I see doubt cloud her eyes and her brow furrows. If we weren't in a church, she'd probably shout faggot at any moment, but I can tell that she's not looking for a fight yet. "So, you're genuine to my brother then? Good for him, and good for you. But, do you really think that staying in this town would be good for him? The opportunities that Jim can open for us are the best thing that could happen to us right now. I can feel that we're running out of time." "How does one feel such a thing?" "Because it's happened before. The miasma and its effect upon the city are well documented in the town hall." "Effects such as..." "Migraines, shared dreams, hallucinations, escalated acts of violence. All the men who died left bones and grave markers behind where it was stated that they were buried. Reading a tall tale is one thing. Living through an act of providence is another." "God and not Satan, you think?" "Maybe we do have something in common." "God made Satan, you fool. He is the end and the beginning. We should be fools to stay here, just like the men of Sodom and Gomorrah." "Then maybe he'll leave." "Not a chance. That damn rat has him locked into place here." "Huh?" I didn't expect her to say that. "Ralph wants to leave Echo too." She lets out a quick and concerning shriek of laughter. "And lose his honeypot? His business is good here. So good that he has my brother hooked on his drugs too. The last thing that he'll ever do is leave. Certainly not before it's too late anyway." At this point I can't tell if one of them is lying to me or if they just both genuinely mistrust one another. This goes deeper. It might have started on the day that their brother died. Maybe even before that. "Why isn't your mother concerned?" "Because she's stubborn and faithless. She is not nearly as close to God as she claims, and everybody knows. But they don't care because she gets things done. That won't matter when there's a reckoning. If you can manage to help him find a way out, then you won't have an enemy in me. If you interfere with my own survival plans, you will find my ear potent. She stands and looks me over once more. Now, if you please, my family is expecting my appearance. She turns away and disappears behind a sliding wooden door. What a catch, isn't she? I hear Jim's voice, but I don't see him. Until I realize that he's sitting on the floor against the wall, smoking a cigarette. You shouldn't be smoking in the church. And you shouldn't be swallowing my seed. Funny how these scruples based on lunacy wash over us. He flicks a bit of ash to the carpet. Relax. I won't burn us all down. Much as I'd like to. He chuckles bitterly and then goes back to smoking. So, what did you make about Holly's speech? About God? He looks at me incredulously. Who the hell knows? She could be making up all this folklore and crystal nonsense for some other aim of hers. The minds are weird, though. I feel the soreness in my head throb. Weird how? Irregular layouts that seem like they should promote cave instability, but they're stable. Copious numbers of carbon monoxide pockets without a clear source of emissions. Traces of gold that should lead to a logical vein, but which do not. And more quartz than you could care to see, though that's not unusual by any means. Quartz is the most abundant mineral in the crust of the planet. I wouldn't be giving these ideas a thought if not for the delirium that it's casting on Holly. She's genuinely scared. Don't take my acknowledgement of that as forgiveness or concern. She's crossed a line with me that she can't uncross. Are you still going through with the marriage then? Is there any other recourse? 2 of the 3 sets of photos have been destroyed. He nods. That's half, which makes it worthless. Even if you go through with the wedding ceremony, you don't have to make it legal. There could still be time. So long as you still go through with the ceremony. He gives me an impatient look. I'm here, aren't I? What nags you all are. Because clearly you don't need any help. Don't patronize me. You're getting things out of this performance too. Only thing that I want is Holly's brother out of y'all's mess. A mess that he contributed to, as you so wisely reminded me of yesterday. Shouldn't we rejoin the party then, groom? I hold out my hand to him and beckon, impatiently. He gives it a look like it's a soiled rag. But he takes it and lifts himself to his legs. As we return to the veranda, by now, the population of attendees has grown 3-fold. There's even more women present than I don't recognize. Hardly any of them seem to be as young as Holly, which isn't surprising considering the demographic of the city. So I'm not surprised most of them would be Gretchen's friends and associates rather than Holly's. But I don't expect to see her. Good morning, Miss Burns. The afternoon is great, Dora, and so is the company. I'm glad that you decided to attend. Echo wouldn't be the same without a Burns matriarch, would it, Gretchen? Of course I have an interest in this event. She crosses her arms. No bar, I see. No need. This is a family event. Of course, there is still a variety of unique beverages to choose from on our menu that don't require alcohol. Cynthia looks like she's trying to change the subject. It's sort of working. Ah, there's the bride-to-be. Oh, Mr. Ronzo. You look as stunning as ever. Only flatter yourself today, girl. This is your day. Please excuse my humility then, Mr. Ronzo. Humility is an overrated quality. She lets out a small laugh and turns to her mother, but Gretchen has eyes only for the madam. Well spoken. Ah, and there's the groom. Jim was sitting by himself, spinning a glass of suspiciously dark-colored liquid. It looks like he's adjusting the pocket inside of his coat before any of the onlookers reach the table. Dora smirks a bit, quite likely for several reasons. Gretchen either isn't picking up any or choosing to ignore it. He looks like he'll show your daughter a thing or two about excitement. My good sir, are you lonely sitting at that table all by yourself? It's reserved for his friends and his parents. So, why is it empty? I was about to ask myself. It's a good question, Jim. For a moment, I'm impressed by how she can say that statement without a trace of edge in her voice. It can only sound dangerous if you know. This must be the first time that I felt an uncanny resemblance between her and her brother. But Jim shrugged. My friends might have caught travel sickness. They were under the weather last night. What a shame. As for my parents, neither absent nor tardiness is their style. They should be here. Perhaps the train had some difficulties. That's not unusual as of late. I haven't heard her talk about that before, but from the tone of her voice, it sounds serious. Well, they have 30 minutes before the beginning of the ceremony. Too many people have taken the time out of their lives to be here, so postponement is out of the question. They can pay for a second ceremony if they're upset about it. Don't fret. I'm sure that won't be necessary. Well, maybe you should be less sure. Why, if I miss my daughter's ceremony, then I'd be devastated. I'm sure your mother wouldn't be happy about missing the most important day of your life. Jim gives her a very thin smile as he drinks from his glass. I can tell that he's doing so to prevent himself from speaking. Let's just hope for the best instead of worrying ourselves over something that hasn't even happened. If the train doesn't make it, then it's nobody's fault. Is she speaking in earnest, or does she think that he has something to do with her absence? Impossible to tell, really. We know that he told his friends not to come last night, but all his family and friends being gone is suspicious. Right then. I should go practice my vows. I as well. They walk in opposite directions while the crowd sort of hovers over the now empty table. Let me refill your drinks. Jim walks in my direction when he suddenly stops. I think he's going to talk to me for a moment when I feel somebody step out of my shadow. I've brought it for you. Brought me what? She holds her palm out to Jim, showing him a silver coin. Thank you, but I won't be needing it. The old fox's brow lifts and her eyes twinkle a bit. You sure, laddie? Quite. He closes her palm. I just don't have the time for this right now. Swiftly, he struts away. Murdoch's grandmother nods and smiles a little smile. I see. Best I do keep it then. She doesn't seem too fussed for somebody whose family tradition was just spurned. Wonder why. A pipe organ from the church begins to play. People on the veranda start standing, moving aimlessly in the direction of the church when the crowd of people aren't clogging their way. Sam, aren't you supposed to be helping people get to their seats? Why's that? Because you're dressed like an usher. I think Mr. Burns said that I was one of those. Ushers help people get to their seats. Nobody told me. Have you not been to a wedding before? A flustered-looking Murdoch pushes through the door, looking left and right until he spots us. He makes his way towards us very carefully, excusing himself liberally as he passes through the gaggle of people. There you are, Sam. Raoul has most of the people bottlenecked at the east door, but it could get pretty dangerous if we don't help. Help how? Nobody told me how to help. Just guide half a dozen people in and make sure that they get to their seats. It's not that difficult. No, he's right. I should have prepared him before. We had everybody trying to rush in at once. So, where have you been? Well, Dahlia's not here. Oh. She's normally so quiet and gentle that I wouldn't have noticed her gone. Where is she? Nobody knows. And they were giving Jim shit about his family. At least he had the excuse of them being out of town. So what now? The church music changes again. I guess now we have to usher. It's been 2 days down here in the dark with not much to go off of but our normal marks. There's enough food in the tromping grounds to last me a month if I have to, but if Melissa's alive, I'll be damned if I spend another day without letting her eat. I can't believe that she did this for Mary of all people. No way in hell that girl would have done all that for her. Sometimes I think that I should have kept my mouth shut. Should have teased her less about her grades. And then I remember that should-haves and would-haves don't fucking matter. I can do something now, and Lord above, help anybody who wants to stand in my way. Melissa never saw the man who was chasing her, but she heard him. Ain't nobody I've ever heard of, for that matter. That's useful in some ways. Ahead of me in the tunnels, I see a man in the rays of light from time to time. He's certainly not a person, because he smiles at me with his jack-o'-lantern grin that's too big for his face, and he stares at me with no eyes but skin covered tightly over the sockets, like you would win the skin of an animal over a drum. But when I keep on walking up to him, he just vanishes into the motes of dust. The spirit seems to think it's taunting, because it thinks that I'm looking for a man who is a monster. The reality is that I am looking for a man who is a coward. A man who would exchange the lives of little girls and boys for just more time to waste on this planet. I can be terrible too if I need to be. But as I keep looking, occasionally I hear real men in the distance. Yesterday, it was mostly miners with their pickaxes shouting things at one another. Today, it's been oddly quiet. Like there's nobody working the mines. That could be bad. If my dad notices that I'm gone early, he'll probably figure out where I've gone and send a search party. If that happens, then I lose Melissa. I step knee-deep into the water. This looks right. This looks like where she found Mary. But I don't see any trace of a body. Or, if it was here, it's not anymore. Was I wrong? Doesn't matter. I'm still going to look. That's the spirit in the light again. He changed his look slightly. He has eyes too small for his face and long black claws. He likes to wiggle at me, clicking against the rock. I'm starting to wish spirits were physical so that I could bite into it and know what it tastes like. I'm getting pretty hungry again. It disappears again on account that I got too close to another light beam. Melissa! I shout out into the cave and hear my voice echo throughout the tunnels. Nobody responds. Don't wake those who sleep, child. Nobody who matters anyway. I climb one of the shallower rock slopes. Melissa? Noisome people oft have noisome ends. Melissa! I shout out even louder. You have to be quiet, or else it will come back. There is a cracked voice calling out to me. The sound of the voice comes from between a very tight pairing of peculiar vertical rocks. I'd know that voice anywhere, cracked or not. I don't waste any more time and slide in between the stones. There's even more of a slope upwards and a light coming from the ceiling. In the darkness, I start to see her crumbled against the rocks. She's dirty and disheveled and looks at least 10 years older than she used to. But she's alive. Blythe? Yes. Is that you? Are you real? Yes. Oh my God, it's really you. I shake her and laugh. Well, of course it's me. Who else would it be? All I do when I see her is take her into a tight hug. I knew these pieces of shit tunnels wouldn't be the end of you. Come on, let's get out of here. I tug her hand, but she resists. What are you waiting for? Blythe, I can't. I don't want to go out there. It's fine. They killed Mary. She just said that. No pause. No stuttering. A Melissa Boyk fact is always stated, like how she stated the weather. Some people might tell you that the mood outside is a little bit dreary. Some might not even bother looking at all. Those people tell you that there's a chance of clouds. They won't comment too hard to a lie that they told for being lazy, which they don't want to get caught in. Some people will hear a tornado but shake their heads and hide, refusing to look, refusing to get to the cellar. But if it's wet outside, Melissa will be the one who tells you it's raining. She knows that there's no way around that even if it might be sunny tomorrow, you still need an umbrella now. Some people did, yes. And if we run into them, I'm gonna be the one who's doing the killing. Blythe, you're a monster. Those can't hurt you. How do you know? You ain't dead, are you? It was too big. Now, why would a spirit be confined to a physical space like that? I don't know if there's rules or not. I think that they can only hurt dead people. How do you know that? Because they had plenty of opportunities to hurt me, I think. She holds her arm and crouches down. Now that I think about that, what would you have been eating down here? You would have had to have been here for what? 4, 5 days? I lucked out. Lucked out? The hell do you mean lucked out? Young woman. It's coming from the direction of the light. Young woman, are you still down there? Who's that? Wait. Is there another one of you? You knew that she'd be down here? Blythe, stop it. He's the one who's been giving me food. But he didn't tell nobody? Now, young lady, I've done everything in my power to help your friend, to the extent that I've given her food from my very table. Wait a minute. I think that I recognize that voice. Aren't you James Hendricks? The owner of the mines? Co-owner with Mr. Briggs, yes. Okay then, that's perfect. Send some of your men to come help Melissa. She's weak. We hear some fiddling with what sounds like a filing cabinets. The men have been away for the last few days, so my hands are a bit tied. What? Are you familiar with the idea of a strike, young lady? Yes. I don't care about that. Melissa needs help right now. I keep telling you that he's been helping me, Blythe. At least Miss Boyk understands the concept of civility, Miss Blythe. My last name is Washington. I think I employ a Washington. You do. That's my dad. Right. He wouldn't be happy to have you girls traipsing down in my mines, you know. That's okay. He can come find us now. So again, what with all the union activity? My dad isn't striking. We don't have the money to spare. Could you please go get help now? What I'm getting at, Miss Washington, is that if 2 very weak young girls are pulled out of the mine, the papers would have a field day, and the strikers would grow bold. Mr. Hendricks? Okay, well, I don't care. We would still like to go. Right. You know, that space up there looks big enough for me and Melissa to just climb up. Just throw us down a rope and then we can climb up ourselves if you need us to be sneaky about this. Still risky. So, what do you suggest that we do? Well, the union trouble should blow over in a couple of days. Why don't you stay put? Mr. Hendricks? I sigh plentifully loud so that he can hear me. First of all, a couple of days means 2. You seem to imply that's a minimum. Secondly, neither I nor Melissa will be staying down here for more than a single day. If you just pull us out of that hole, then we'll make up some lies about how you're a hero and handsome and stuff. You look great. Is that a deal? We listen to the droplets in the cave while we wait for him to respond again. That sounds pretty great, right? Oh my god. What? Oh my god. What's going on up there? I'm sorry, girls. The lights of the hole goes partially dark. What the hell? Mr. Hendricks. This is for your own benefit. I promise. Mr. Hendricks, please. The light in the hole goes completely dark. Melissa starts screaming. Just drop us a rope, you fucking asshole. He sealed it up. I know. We're gonna have to go back. But we can't go back. Yes, we can. We've been in the cave hundreds of times. We'll be fine, okay? She nods, but I can tell her heart isn't entirely in it. But she's cooperating with me, which is all that I need. We're getting out. We're gonna be okay. What the hell made him run off like that? Goddamn coward son of a bitch. So, the strike is why I didn't hear anybody earlier? But we're running through the tunnels. I can hear somebody. There's somebody close by in one of the tunnels. We can't go near anybody. Any of them might try to hurt us. Especially if that's that awful man. He's not trying to be quiet, and we know what the other man sounds like. I take the time to listen to his voice. He sounds panicked, and his voice is deep. Much deeper than whoever Melissa heard. But what is he saying? Podpalacz. I think that I've heard that language before. Central European. I think that I've heard the word before. You can speak it? No, but one of my dad's friends is Alak. I think it means arsonist? You don't think that there's a fire in the tunnel, do you? Things just got real bad for us, if there is. I see a very large man running through the beams of light towards us. I think he's a bear. No, he's a badger. Hey, stop! What? Little girls? You shouldn't be down here. It's not safe. You have to run. Ushering is more work than I figured that it would be with a crowd this big. I wipe my brow and glance left and right to make sure that everybody's where they're supposed to be. Everybody who's present anyway. As soon as we get everybody into the chapel, the real wedding music starts to play. Gretchen is the first to walk up, standing next to the priest. She regards the crowd with a thin smile as her mother walks up the aisle, taking a seat at the front. Dahlia is still noticeably missing. Jim appears next and walks up the aisle by himself towards Gretchen, though I might describe it as more of a skulk than a walk. Holly appears next and walks up the aisle with Alfred holding her arm. She's as radiant as ever, especially standing next to her father. The room hangs onto the priest, who inhales for a moment and then slips his forked tongue out of his mouth. He pauses for a long while. Is something the matter, Father? The snake looks like he's going to say something, but Miss Burns speaks first. Does anybody smell smoke? Dora stands and then points out the window. The Hendricks Manor. In the view of the window, we see a thick column of black smoke rising from the building, billowing into the sky. The church door bursts open. We see both Neil and Reuben panting and disheveled with sweat. To be continued. So, things are getting spicy. Excuse me. So, things are starting to get really bad in Echo. We first saw it with Cliff, which you probably saw before these videos, because I'm going to have to put it back to back. And then we are now seeing it with Murdoch's route, in which I guess the Hendricks Manor is burning. Apparently the miners are involved with it, I guess, because we heard Nick mention arsonist, or maybe fire or something like that. So somebody has to be involved, and given that the miners' strike was, it seemed to be heating up in Nick's route, perhaps that's what's happening. Maybe they have decided to not, negotiate anymore and just attack Mr. Hendricks. I wonder if they would also attack Mr. Briggs. Anyways, well, maybe not attack, but perhaps negotiations fell through and the manor is now on fire. What else? But yeah. Also, poor Murdoch. To be stuck in that family, to be stuck in the middle of everything. But it is kind of curious, though, because it seems like Holly isn't that bad of a person, or at least is looking out for Murdoch to some extent. And it is a little confusing because, as Sam pointed out, wow, this music is loud. I'm gonna have to lower it in editing. As Sam pointed out, Ralph also seems to be looking out for Murdoch. Holy shit, this music is loud. It's loud for me when I'm recording. It's gonna be low for you guys when you watch it, but yeah. But anyways, Ralph is also looking out for Murdoch and he wants him out of the town, and now Holly is saying that she's looking out for Murdoch and wants him out of the town. Thank God it's over. Anyways, but so who is telling the truth? Who's lying? Or are they both telling the truth? I guess we'll find out later. I don't really trust Holly, and Ralph hasn't given me any reason to distrust him. If anything, it looks like he wants Sam to lead Murdoch out of the town and possibly use Sam as like a way to, I don't know, just help with that end goal in a way. I don't know. Anyways, what are your thoughts? And hopefully the girls and Nikolai make it out of the mines. But yeah, what are your thoughts? Actually, before I do the whole outro part, there was something interesting because I used Google Translate for the thing that Nikolai was saying, and it doesn't translate to arsonist, it translates to incendiary. So to me, perhaps it might be just, like, oh, they decided to use a different translation, but it could mean that there was an explosion rather than that there was an actual arsonist. So we'll have to see, okay? Anyways, so thank you all for watching / listening. If you would like to play the smoke room yourself and do any of the other routes, or, stay up to date with what's going on, then you can do so by going down into the link in the description for the Echo Project Twitter page, which should have a direct link for the smoke room on itch.io. Or you can go to itch.io and download it, directly from there, in case Twitter doesn't exist anymore. And if you would like to support the project, I will also link down in the description the Echo Project Patreon, where you can subscribe and get early access to builds of the smoke room and all the other wonderful little visual novels that the Echo Project is churning out. So yeah. Also, my coffee is linked down there in case, you want to keep donating. But yeah, so I guess that's it for now, and I will see you guys in the next videos. Bye-bye.